I'm James White, the founder of Intouch CRM, and welcome to another edition of this Seven Figure Club podcast. So over the last few weeks and months, we've interviewed some fantastic different business entrepreneurs and owners who have achieved so many different elements in their business. And it's been interesting to me to really listen to these guys and what they have to say and how they've achieved the success they have. And it's always intriguing to get to know people through business connections and networking and understand a bit more about them and how they've achieved the success they have. And I'm always on the hunt to meet with very senior, great business people that have achieved some fantastic things. And one of the programs that I've been investing time in myself recently is something called Key Person of Influence. It's a program run by a guy called Daniel Priestley, and I'm hoping to get Daniel on one of the future podcasts that we run. But basically, Key Person of Influence is around how you can improve your own profile as a business person. Certainly something I'm keen to do, and I know that a lot of the people that I've interviewed have built significant profiles for them and their business and what they do. And one of the most important aspects, I think, around the interviews is really trying to tap into the knowledge and expertise that people have. And within the KPI program, I've had the chance recently to meet a guy called Mark Edwards, and Mark's going to be the person that's on our podcast today. Mark is a great guy. As I say, met him a number of months ago as I started the KPI program, and Mark's got an incredible story about how he's achieved success in business. Very much a keen photographer and fitness fanatic. He was a triathlete and competed up to sort of train 12 times a week, and knows what it takes to the dedication required to make things happen. But became first involved in mergers and acquisitions at the very young age, 25. And has been involved in since then over 140 acquisitions of businesses. And I thought, well, actually, what better person to invite onto a Seven Figure Club podcast than Mark, who has literally been there and done it all and seen it all with regard to buying and selling businesses and getting the value that you want from your business. And Mark's career, he's involved as an owner. He sold his own businesses. He's been involved in a number of software companies, raised investment for technology companies as well as clients, and has written a book on mergers and acquisitions, which is about to be published in the next few months. But I thought, what better person to invite on? The Seven Figure Club podcast is all around helping people like yourself and business owners and people that want to succeed and get the results that they want in life and business to achieve more. And I thought, well, what better person to invite on the Seven Figure Club podcast than Mark, who knows what it takes to sell a business, knows what it takes to make the Seven Figure Club dream come true. And I thought it's a great chance for Mark to share his thoughts, his ideas, and wisdom really on how you as a business owner can basically make your business dream come true and get to the point where you can sell and achieve the results and rewards that you want for the effort you've put in. So I asked Mark to join me on the podcast. He very kindly agreed to do that. And so what we now have is a podcast with Mark Edwards. Mark is currently the chief executive of a company called Boss Equity, who, as I say, provide a huge amount of resources and help to business owners to enable them to get the rewards for the effort they put in and start to see the value in their business rise. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy the podcast. It's full of great stories, wisdom, insights from Mark on what he's seen over his business career, and how he's got some great thoughts on how the acquisitions that he's been involved with have come to fruition and what's it taken to make that happen. So thought there's no better person to invite on the podcast than Mark. Great guy, really great to have a chance to interview him. I was lucky enough to spend half hour with him on the phone talking through things. And so without further ado, let's get into the next Seven Figure Club podcast with Mark Edwards, the Chief Executive of Boss Equity.
Thank you, James, and thanks for the invite. It's quite exciting to be on your podcast. When you told me about it, I was quite interested to go and have a listen. So it's nice to be part of it.
No, you're very welcome. It's great, and it's great to have a chance to chat to people, experienced business people like yourself. Firstly, just obviously, I did a brief introduction. If you want to just do a little bit around, what you're doing at the moment with Boss Equity and how you got into that business, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Essentially, what we do is that we work with companies predominantly in the software technology sector. That's our background, that's our experience, that's where we came from. But the principles that we apply in the process working with our clients, they apply for any business. And the fundamental sort of overarching objective is that we're a great believer in the entrepreneur, the person who sort of has an idea, takes that idea, grows it and turns it into a business. And, I've worked with many, many different business owners, and it's fantastic when you see at the end of that journey, whenever that may be, that they get the just rewards for the hard effort, because it is really hard. I mean, one of the things that we say, it's sort of, if your business has survived for 5 years, you're doing amazingly well, because 85% of businesses don't.
Yeah, that's right. And like you say, and again, it's I guess from that case there, it's about building on from those 5 years and making sure people get the value that they want to.
Yes, that's right. And you see, the other thing is, I think that an entrepreneur is quite different. They're a special animal. Maybe they're born like that. I don't know, or maybe it's something that's nurtured within them. But I think that I see a lot of businesses that do grow and survive, and they've been fueled on the passion of those entrepreneurs. And there's so much commitment that goes into it. And what we've really enjoyed is being able to help that person take that business and take it to the next level, and then get the rewards by exiting, by the sale of that business. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, rather than become part of a much larger organization, where perhaps it becomes very political, it's not the same as taking a very small business and growing it, being part of a larger organization. Sometimes that's where experienced business people start up their own business in the first place. They've been part of the large corporate, they've done it for many years, and they say, hang on a minute, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I've got lots of experiences and skills. I want to go out and try it and build some equity value of my own.
Well, that's it. And you've got, and obviously you've done a lot of that yourself. I know from, looking at your bio and obviously we'll share that on the podcast, your bio on the Boss Equity page. You've started a number of different businesses, I guess, and taken them to, different stages, floating them and actually selling them. So, I mean, what's your, when you start a business, for all those people that listen out here, are there any sort of 2 or 3 things that you think are quite core to the framework of any business that an entrepreneur starts?
Yes, I think they're right. I think one of the things that we always say is start with the end in mind. And I think that sort of relates back to my last point, which is that I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, the best and most enjoyable path for them is to take the business, is to grow it to a certain size, and then to sell it, and then to go through that process again. Because once you've done it, second time around will be much easier. And in speaking to a lot of these entrepreneurs, we also hear that sometimes when they've been with the business for maybe 20 years, they've said, well, actually, the first 5 or the first 10 years were the most exciting for me. And then after that, I was more removed from the business, and it became a different animal. And I think that sometimes I see business owners and they do what we call, riding the business up and over the top. It often will require a different set of skills to take that business, up and beyond to where they've got it. And we quite often see people that they get a good business, a valuable business with innovation, but then they hit a ceiling. And I think at that stage, quite often it needs a different type of leader. And some people are able to make that transition, but I think a lot would be better off of saying, okay, I've done my bit. Now let's hand that on to a much larger organization. It's more about management and processes. That's not me.
Yeah,
I'm more about passion and innovation.
Yeah.
And let me go and do it again. And I'll go and do it in another area. And I think that also can be very refreshing. And it could be very rewarding financially as well. They can sell the business, put money away in the bank, to take the financial pressures off themselves, and then take what they've learned and build the second business. And we've seen people do that 2, 3, 4 times very, very successfully.
Yeah, no, it's a great, it's a great point around, actually, like you say, the first 5 to 10 years are the hardest. You go through a lot of the learnings and when you go through things, and you then come out the other side and you look back. I know myself, going through that. I mean, was there any sort of piece of advice, that people, that someone gave, when you were working in your career and as you built businesses that someone gave you that thought that was brilliant advice? I'm really so glad I've taken that on board.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, James. And I was thinking back to when I first got into the area of what we call business transfers. It's similar, it's about taking a business and being able to sell that business.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor in those days, a guy called John Oakes, who'd been doing this for years and years. And he said, if you look at a lot of businesses, small business, they just try to do too much too soon.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. And he had this phrase, which I often use, is when we're looking to maybe extend the services or extend their products, is where does that stop? And quite often the answer is yes, but we can make money doing that. And so he would say, yeah, but you could probably make money selling baked tins of baked beans, but do you really want to go and do that? And I think instead of having that focus where you can really pierce through into the market and you've got a niche, you see a lot of small companies that go too broad too soon. They don't establish that focus. They don't have the right positioning. They don't have the right marketing and the right sales processes. So they don't get the level of sales that they want. But their way of addressing it is to say, well, let's add something else on. Let's go address another market. Grass is always greener. Actually, they need to go back and look. If they've got a product or a service that really addresses a pain, then I think that they need to persevere with that and get it right, rather than let's release another product, let's go into another region, let's go out to a wider market. I think that's good.
No, it's fantastic advice. I mean, I love that, where does that stop? And it's so, again, a lot of the other, Seven Figure Club podcasts that we've done with like McAlavich, with Matt Garman, with, Dwayne Jackson, they've said very similar things, having that focused niche at the start and being able to really drive hard into that space and really become the dominant, player in that environment is so key for so many businesses. And, people reading and listening to this podcast will be saying, well, yeah, but I don't want to stop doing, things in X and Y market. But like you say, maybe as John has said, it's sometimes that can cause you more damage than good.
Yes, and it doesn't mean that you don't innovate. You need to innovate around your product or your service. You need to innovate a way about how you engage with your customers. You need to innovate in your marketing. You need to be creative. You need to innovate in the way that you manage with your people. But I think keep adding product, and particularly, and I think that's one of the reasons why I keep in the software technology sector, is it's a very exciting sector to be in. And it's a massive growth area. And for an entrepreneur, if they want to go out and be in an industry that moves really quickly and have the potential for a massive upside, then software technology is a good target. But a lot of the people in that sector that start businesses quite often come from a technology background. And they can create software, but how to get that out into the market and how to sell that is often one of the weaknesses. And when we look at a business, sorry, go ahead.
No, you carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when we look at a business, we look at it as we talk about the sort of the 5 columns of stability and strength that you need to build up in order to build the equity value. Our marketing tagline is unlocking greater equity value. And I think that's what the entrepreneur should really be focused upon, is building that equity value throughout their journey. And because it will also help the business perform. Now, we talk about, greater equity value, greater return for them when they sell, but you want a better performing business and one that is more stable because it's got strong columns within it, such as, it's positioned very, very carefully. They know their market. The marketing work is effective. They can grab attention. Got a proper sales process. They've got management systems, and yes, they have an exit strategy right from day one before they even open the door. And I know that there are vast majority of people don't do that.
No, you mentioned it's great, and I know you've touched upon there. I know a framework that you're very passionate about, and I've seen from what you guys do at www.bossequity.com, where you talk around this sort of 5-stage process in your it's your equity value accelerator, isn't it? Your EV.
That's right. Yes, that's it.
We'll just talk a little bit about sort of because obviously competitive space talked about niche and focusing right, but how important do you think marketing and sales is to? I know it's it's a generic term, but so many businesses don't do it effectively, do they?
Oh, critical. It is so, you can't overstate how important it is. And I think on an intellectual level, every owner I've ever spoken to agrees with that. But there's a difficulty there in that what I often find is that the business is built in a reflection of the owner.
Right.
If one of the first things I'm asking is when I'm going in and when I've been asked to come in and look at a business is I want to know the background of those founders, that founder or founding people. And if you see that it's an organization that's been built by technical people, then you're going to be pretty confident that the technology behind it is strong. Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
But start looking towards the marketing, and often you'll find that that's quite weak. And that's
Yeah.
where they run into this problem is, we've created a great solution. Why aren't people buying it?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the sales process. You do get people that come from a sales background and they've built a good sales ability. They're working really very, very hard. You've got that founder who's got the good sales ability. He's out there selling, but you cannot keep building a business with all of the sales on your own shoulder. And you do need a good product, and you do need a good service, and you need marketing to field, we call it the sales engine right at the heart of your organization. That's what the whole business is built upon. That's where your revenue comes from. Without a sale, nothing happens, but you've got to feed that. And again, if you've got somebody who comes from a sales background, they can go out and sell with probably very little support, very little collateral on a one-to-one basis, but that's not scalable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to be able to bring in salespeople, but have those salespeople fed by qualified sales leads. I mean, looking at some organization like Salesforce, when they first started, they were trying to sell a SaaS model that at that time there was a lot of suspicion and there was a lot of resistance. But they built it because they did very, very effective marketing. They qualified those leads and they made sure that those leads were managed in a complete process right the way through to the sale. And they learned by creating systems. They created, they got their people aligned, they got their processes aligned, and they got the technology to back them up. Yeah. They could then monitor, and they learnt. They were forever learning, and they became very, very effective. And they built the Salesforce that it is today.
No, you're quite right. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when I talk to a lot of business owners, as you do, and you talk to them about marketing and sales, and, you ask them questions around, their structure and what they do. And of course, things are a little bit different now, nowadays than what they were, 5-10 years ago. And do you think in your mind, a lot of the business owners and the people you're talking with have made the jump in the change? Because, we talk about people that are no longer, content is very key now. People don't want to be sold to. Do you think a lot of those guys have actually made the jump or are making the jump? Or do you still think there's some learnings for people to go through there?
I would say the vast majority haven't. Mm-hmm. I would say, and they're at various stages along that growth path. But bearing in mind, I mean, the digital revolution that everybody talks about, and that really has changed things, has happened so quickly. It's difficult to keep up, especially when you're running a business. I mean, the funny thing was, I know all of this stuff, but when we looked at our business, because we said, we're achieving some great results for clients here. The only thing what we need to do is we need to scale our business. Yeah. And so we actually applied our own framework, our own process to our own company. And it was quite revealing because we weren't doing everything that we were advocating, that we were enabling our clients to do. We didn't do ourselves.
But it's always the way sometimes, isn't it? Because you're busy running things, aren't you? But you don't sometimes do it. I was doing the same thing ourselves. As you know, we are in touch here. We have a system that helps, convert prospects to customers. And I was talking to our team and saying, actually, let's use some of our tools. You sometimes leave it, don't do it all as you should do. But in terms of where you think, obviously, you've seen so many different businesses and seen businesses grow and scale and sell. Is there anything in particular that you think that, one or two things that you think you've seen in the last few businesses you've helped that unlock their value, that they've done very well from a sales and marketing perspective, that you think they really nailed the part and that was key for them?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, because it's I learn a lot from my clients. I mean, our job is to go in and it's to unlock that equity value in the business and actually to facilitate the sale. So we're not just consultants. We take that business out and we sell it. But you create a real partnership. You get to know your clients so well. This is not a 2-month project we're talking about. The length of time can vary from, at the very, very shortest, it would be 6 months, and that would be a rarity. And we've worked with companies for 6 years.
Wow. Okay.
Palace Athena, who ended up selling to Lexmark, we worked with them for 6 years, and it was a case of actually helping them with some small acquisitions, helping them with people, and then finally doing the sale to Lexmark. But it's a $50 million sale. It's a big event in those people's lives, but you learn a lot because you do get so close to your clients. And I can think of a client actually just from a few years ago. They had been given an offer. Somebody had approached them and had offered $4.5 million for their company, and he was about to agree the deal. And somebody that he knew quite well said, "Go and have a chat with Mark just before you do it. See what he thinks." So I got a call out of the blue, and he said, "Come down and see me." He said, "I'd like to have a chat about an M&A issue." I didn't really know anything, the reason for it, but I knew of the company, and I knew it was a good company. So I met with the owner, had a chat with him, and he said, "This is a situation. I've been offered 4.5. I'm quite happy. I think I could accept that." He said, "But what do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think you've got an interesting business." I said, "It takes a bit of analysis to look at it in depth, but I think you've got a good profile. You seem to have got some good technology here. Let's have a little bit of a deeper look." So we did. And it sort of finished with him saying to me, "Okay," he said, "if you think that you could get for me 5 million, then I'll go with you and I'll turn this other offer down." Okay. So we agreed on that and we moved forward.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're talking about is uncovering the diamonds beneath your feet. Because I think that you need a certain degree of objectivity often to see the real value in a company. And one of the things that we saw was that their marketing processes. Now, this is quite unusual for companies in their particular sector, which was around document capture. And they had really put a lot of effort into this. They'd been through quite a transformation in the previous 3 years in changing the type of business that they were. They had a much more sticky business engagement with their clients because they were tying into back-end technology. But one of the key things was how they went out and they attracted new business, how they had formalized this, put this into a process that was scalable and repeatable. And I brought into that organization, we had serious face-to-face discussions and meetings with about 12 different companies. And one of the key things that came out of this were the larger organizations looking at this small company and saying, "Wow, look at that process. Look how they have driven leads into that. And look how they have increased the awareness and the technology that they've put behind that. What would happen if we were to take that and use that in our much larger company?"
Yeah.
And it started, because they had that scalability, the repeatability. Yes, they had IP. Yes, they had some good technology. They had some good customers. But the real diamond for some of these companies was that marketing process, that knowledge and real. They were up to date with the latest techniques out there, and there are very few companies that can do that. And the result was he was given 8.5 million for the business.
Wow! So you sort of turned him from sort of like 4.5 that you sort of doubled his money nearly, basically.
Yeah,
so I guess
exactly.
You're on his Christmas card list, I guess, every year.
But that's what we should do. That's what we do, but that's great fun. I really do enjoy that because I love business. I mean, I've had many businesses of my own. I always say I started my first business when I was 11 and I started car cleaning. You do learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
I had a business selling flotation devices for athletes and triathletes, and then we turned it into something for fitness people. I've been on market stalls. I've sold in markets. All of that is great experience. Yeah. So when I'm working with business owners, I love to hear about their businesses. I love to hear about the personalities of those businesses, and you make good friends as well. I've got many lifelong friends that have been ex-clients of mine. So it's.
You're right, you do it, and I agree. I always say to people, I sold double glazing, I sold on the market myself.
Yes.
It's a great
double
experience.
Glazing, I can imagine. We're great learning ground.
It was. Trust me, when you're on the when I always double glazing, I always tell people that I talk, as you might have heard, I talk a lot about persistence, and a lot of businesses actually in sales processes don't have enough persistence. They
Yes,
fully. And I always think
absolutely.
when you're on the 50th call of the day and you've had most people abuse you, you've still got to hope that the 51st is the right one. But tell me, you've obviously had huge amounts of success in terms of what you're doing. Is there any things you've done that you look back and thought, oh, Mark, I got that wrong, and learnings, lessons that you've made that you think, geez, if I'd have done that differently, I could have had a better result.
Wow.
Useful things that you can share.
Things that I've done wrong probably every week.
But you sort of you really wish you'd learned a big lesson from. If not, then obviously not.
No. I think the company that I was a part of, I was a shareholder in before I started this current business. This is the late 1990s.
Yeah.
I think that I stayed with that business longer than I should have done.
Okay.
I didn't really believe in the solution that they were offering.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't believe in something, I know just you've got to have something else to sell, something else, another service. If you don't believe it, let it go. And I didn't have the ability to change it because it was part of a pan-European organization. They'd created some software. And this wasn't down to the fault of the software developers. It was the leadership that they were given in that were sent in different directions, every 6 months. I think that there was potential when I joined the company, but it had gone in the wrong direction. And I didn't really believe that the software solution that they had solved a real business pain. It was a nice to have if I didn't have if I didn't have many other priorities. And I think I should have left that organization a lot earlier. But from the back of that, when you have that sort of experience, when things are tough, and it was very tough many times, and actually I ended up spearheading with somebody else within the organization, and we did a management buyout, and we raised money. All of those were very trying and stressful times, but you learn most when you're under pressure like that. You do. It was a mistake to stay there, but what I learned in trying to get over some of those problems, those experiences stay with me. So I don't like to look back and regret anything. You make decisions at the time, don't you?
And it makes me think. But you talk about something there, which I think is really interesting about this passion for the product, and actually, it's a big thing, I guess, in terms of actually, as a business owner, and I guess people, someone like yourself who's built up and help and drive and sold businesses. That passion is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we produced a video recently, and we were trying to put into it, what we felt about entrepreneurs that we come across, and I do admire them. So many of the people that I've worked with, I think that the effort and the sacrifices that they make and the dedication, it is something to be admired. And I think that the way that we're set up with the media, it tends to be the very largest companies that get the media attention, that have the resources. But actually, if you look at the economy as a whole, those companies, the smaller organizations, they make up half the sort of the total revenue in any of the sectors. And that is also where a lot of the innovation comes from.
Yeah, no,
and it's
right.
the larger corporate giants and the investors out there, the corporate investors, in my mind, that quite often feed on those smaller companies. I've seen some very underhand things that are done in the M&A world. I don't come from a financial or a legal background. I come from more of a sales marketing, and I've been there, and I've started businesses myself, and that's the same with my other senior colleagues. We've all come from within the industry. We know what it's like to sit on that side of the table. But the M&A world is managed by accountants and lawyers, and there's a whole host of reasons for that. But actually, what goes on, and this is part of a campaign, if you like, that we're on, it is not right anyway. Put it that way. I can probably put it in a lot stronger words, but I've seen some very underhand techniques they use, and it's to the disadvantage of those small and medium-sized businesses that our economy needs. We must have those, and we need to encourage those people, and we need to encourage those people to go out and do it again. But they need advice. And
It's interesting you mentioned that, because you, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned about, the fact that, like you say, there's some tactics that go on. Is there any sort of 2 or 3 things that you think that, and conscious, that you think for business owners that are going through this, they want to sell, they want to get to, to join the 7-figure club. That's where they're in business. It's one of the reasons why they're in business. Is there anything that you sort of 2 or 3 sort of key bits of advice you say to people? Look,
Wow, yeah.
I know you're trying to distill that and everything you do. I don't
know how long your podcast is, James, but we'd be going this time in 12 hours time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big subject.
Yeah.
It really is. It's I'm always a little bit reluctant to sort of try and boil it down to 1 or 2, because there is so much.
Yeah.
M&A is complex, but it doesn't mean that it's not something that you can't enter and do very well from. The sale of your business is going to be the biggest sale of your life. It is life-changing, and it is really, really important. And I think part of it is there's an issue with the M&A industry as a whole, and part of our vision is to change that for the small and medium-sized enterprise, to change that, to put the odds much more back in their favour, because I think that will also help the economy. But I also think that part of the problem are the owners of these businesses,
right?
Because they're picking up myths and misconceptions and not really doing their research. They're getting brainwashed into thinking that their business is merely a multiple of revenue or EBITDA, which is total nonsense. And
right.
I keep repeating that. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's a whole, value is built up in layers. And as I said, it's built up by reducing risk. It's like anything else. The value of something is based upon supply and demand and competitive tension. And it's what one person is willing to sell it for and what the other person is willing to buy it for. But because the M&A industry is dominated by accountants, they like to do accountant type things, which is put together spreadsheets and work out multiples and mathematical equations. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. No,
it's as simple as that.
No, you're right, and I guess one of the advice. I mean, the first 7-figure podcast I did with Dwayne Jackson from Cashflow, because Dwayne sold Cashflow to Iris, a number of years ago. He said one of the things that he did, is that he had a figure in mind, and he had a figure in mind. He knew the value of his business, and he tells a story whereby he was in a room and they were literally discussing the sort of final terms. And again, he brought advice in, to go back to your point about bringing advice in. Someone came in and said, actually, if you look at that clause there, Dwayne, I think that's going to mean that you're going to be, quite a different, quite a substantial £500,000 figure out. And he said across the table to them, he said, we need to move, take that clause out. They said no. He said, right, that's it, it's over. He walked away, and he tells this story. And I remember asking him, wow, you must have had, real confidence to do that. He said, sometimes you've got to have belief in what you do. But I think your point of this is, bring the advice in as well, isn't it? It's about getting the advice in at the right time. If you do think you want to change business, then how do you get that advice in?
It's about not looking at that sale of your business as something that just happens within the last year of your involvement with the company. The first thing I would say is start with the exit strategy from the first day, because it will make you build that business in a different way. And it will make you view the business in a better way. And guess what? It makes you build a better business most of the time, because it gives you that little bit of objectivity. And I think that you can get some advice in that area from get advice from the right people. That's what I would say. Don't just go out to somebody because they've sold their business. They've sold one business or they've sold 2 businesses. I do get that a lot. I've been brought into organizations and they've said, we've brought in this guy because he's sold 2 or 3 businesses in the past. And when you really boil it down, he has done, and he's sold all 3 really badly.
Exactly.
And he's just going to repeat it. And guess what? He's just about to line up his 4th bad sale. I've done over 140, and I've been working at this for 25 years, and I'm still learning things. And it's not just my experience, it's the experience of the other guys within my business. They are also very experienced, and we've put all of our knowledge and experience, and we've created a process and knowledge that it's systemized, and it takes people through it. So start with that exit strategy. Always be building equity within your organization. And I think the one weakness sometimes, and I'd point to myself in that respect, that is, if you've started a business, if you are an entrepreneur, you're going to be quite a confident person, And the tendency is to think, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And there are times when it's actually smarter to say, I can, but I probably can't do it best. I do need to bring some assistance here, because the differences are massive. You know, I've got a number of, it's very difficult to say as an organization on every deal, how much extra value did we bring to our client? I can say I've never had a client who's found it painful to give us that check at the end of the deal, because they can see the work that we've done. It's hard work. But I have had a few examples where they've been in the process of actually, they were about to sell, and then for some reason or another, and they were happy with that value, and then they've come to us because something's gone wrong or they changed their mind, and we've doubled it. And we're talking about millions here. It's millions. It really is. It's the biggest sale of your life. Make sure you get it right.
I think that's amazing advice. And obviously, one of the things we'll do as part of the 7 Figure Club podcast here is sharing your details around you guys and what you do, because I know you're about helping people do that. So I'm conscious we talked towards the end of the pod, and it's been amazing talking to you about something. I really appreciate your time, today. But sort of final question to you, it's just in terms of, if you could go back in time and sort of give yourself one bit of advice, was there any bit of advice you think, actually, do you know what, that's something I wish I'd sort of, I know you made that leaving the company, a bit earlier than you did, but is there anything you think actually, either a bit of advice or something that you think actually, that the hack or a tip that you use that has got amazing results to finish the podcast off with?
I think believe in yourself. And I think that leads to another bit of advice, which funnily enough I was given by John Oakes and always sticks in my mind, sometimes comes back to me, which is that if to be successful in life, you have to reach out. And in order to do that, you have to let go with the other hand. And that requires confidence. So I think that I see a lot of very talented people with passion and skills and a lot of energy. And I think sometimes they perhaps just sit too long. And if they can just have that confidence to reach out, and it does mean letting go of some things, then perhaps they can get to that success a bit sooner. And that's something that I would aim to do myself as well.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love it. It sounds like John was an incredible mentor for you, and there's probably lots more stories and ideas and thoughts.
Oh, definitely, yes. A few to have over a beer, perhaps, not so much on a podcast, but you'd enjoy them.
No, indeed. Well, I think that's a great way to sort of finish off the podcast. About actually saying, being able to look at yourself, reach out and actually reach out and look at new opportunities, but be prepared to let go is a great bit of advice for anyone listening. That sometimes you've got to look at those things, haven't you? You've got to look and say, I can't do this all myself, basically.
Yeah, and draw the best out of yourself. It's amazing. I think when you give yourself a bit of space and a bit of thinking time, it's amazing the ideas that come up. And that's part of what we facilitate with our clients, is to draw the best out of them, because they know their business, they know their industry. Quite often they just need to have that thinking time and have that process to be facilitated for them. And that's a valuable element that I think that we can bring to them. So it's good fun as well.
Brilliant. Well, look, Mark, it's been amazing talking to you. It's been absolutely, really, inspirational for me in terms of, finding out some of the stories and the ideas of what, you guys have done. And like you say, some of the stories there, doubling people's money, that was going to stick in my mind for the whole rest of today, from 4.5 to 8 million. I mean, like you said, that's an example of what you guys can do and the knowledge that you have. So, look, I really appreciate your time today. I think it's, what I'm going to do, as I say, we'll be sharing details around you guys and both, not just the Boss Equity website, but like Mark had mentioned in the podcast, an incredible video that was put together by Mark and his team, which talks about how entrepreneurs work, and which we'll also share as part of the podcast. We'll link from the podcast, because it really inspired me when I saw it, and I know that, like you say, Mark, it's passion for you to help other entrepreneurs, achieve their dreams.
Well, no, thanks very much for inviting me, James. I mean, I do listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I think it's a great tool for business people, because it's, for me, I put podcasts on when I'm down at the gym. And I think what you're doing is great. I know in your particular area of expertise around CRM, that's one of the areas that we look at when we go into an organization. And again, it's an opportunity to increase equity value within an organization, because it reduces risks for buyers coming in. So I think it's really important, and I love the work that you're doing. Keep doing it.
Great stuff. Well, Mark, look, really great to speak to you. As I say, we'll finish off the podcast here. Thanks very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And as I say, we'll look forward to hopefully catching up with you really soon.
Thank you very much, James. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
So there you have it. That was the podcast we did with Mark Edwards from Boss Equity. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed talking to Mark around business and what you need to do to achieve success in the business that it is that you own. And I thought a number of the things that were pointed in what Mark talked about there, he mentioned about mentors and the mentor that he had. And obviously that's a key thing that we always say to a lot of companies. You need to have that mentoring position in place with people that have been there and done it to actually to help you on your way. So certainly something I've found value here at Intouch, and I'm sure others can testify that having a mentor that can help you can make a big difference. I also thought some of the other great ideas that Mark talked around there in terms of what you need to do as an entrepreneur to achieve success is key. And there's a great video that I'll also share within the link in the podcast itself to a video that Mark and his team did on what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and it moved me, and I'm sure it will move you guys as well in terms of seeing that. So hopefully you enjoyed that edition of the Seven Figure Club podcast. We're always interested in talking to entrepreneurs and business owners, people that have been there and sold businesses and achieved success. And we're always really happy to chat to them and understand what they've done to achieve the success that they have. I've got a few people lined up, a really exciting lady who's due to join the podcast next week. So I'm hoping I'll be able to share that with you soon. But if you've got any ideas of someone you think would be great to interview on the podcast for them to share their stories, then please let us know. And if you also need any help around actually growing your business, driving your business forward, and actually converting more of your prospects into customers, then obviously give us a call here at InTouch. We're always happy to help you in that way. That's what we do. That's our passion, is helping our clients convert their prospects into customers and drive their business to a new level of growth. So if we can help with that way, then we'd love to talk to you as well. But thanks again for listening. This was episode number 6 of the Seven Figure Club podcast. More to follow really soon, and have a great day.